Okay, Brian, so you're attempting to get some money together to date the megaliths of Pumu Punku, this site in Bolivia. Can you just tell us a bit about the site and why you want to do this?
Well, this site is one of the strangest ancient megalithic sites on Earth, and the reason why it's so strange is that the stone surfaces are incredibly flat. And when I say flat, I'm saying within a few thousandths of an inch, or even possibly within 2/10,000ths of an inch of being flat. And I've taken a number of engineers there, and they've all stated that categorically that this could not have been done with hand tools, and especially not with the primitive hand tools of the Bronze Age civilization called the Tiwanaku.
Yes, I mean, there are people who are stating that it was possible to do this, and they could have done it with metal alloy chisels and then just polished the surfaces. Also, they're stating that the angles are not perfect and there's no kind of sophisticated technology involved. What would you say to that?
Well, the intriguing thing is that there are very few 90-degree angles. Instead, we have much more complicated angles than that. The famous H blocks, which are there are about 8 or 10 of them left. There could have been many more of them, but they are actually dovetails. So the interior is actually wider than the exterior aspect, as if something would come down, excuse me, and lock into place. Again, engineers, including Chris Dunn, author of the Giza Power Plant, he was there with precision instruments that he uses in the aviation industry, because he was an engineer designing parts for jet engines. And so his precision squares and precision rulers that he uses found that these surfaces were exceptionally flat, at least as flat as a glass tabletop.
They do look it from the videos that I've seen. Is it true that you also think that the andesite rocks there are much older than the sandstone that also seems to have been used?
Well, the key thing is, and that's why we have to do the what's called cosmogenic testing, is the sandstone, of which there are blocks as large as 130 tons. They're from a known quarry 10 kilometers away. And the andesite, which is the gray stone, they found that quarry, and it's more than 70 kilometers to the north and presently underwater. So the question is not only how did they access the stone, but how did they move it, and then how did they shape it to this incredible level of precision?
Yes, another thing that people need to realize is that the site has been looted, and a lot of things have been taken away, haven't they?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that the Tiwanaku people, again, who were a Bronze Age people, they arrived at that location about 2,000 years ago, and we believe that they started to recycle an even older period of construction. And then from after that time, once the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, they used Tiwanaku and Pumu Punku as a quarry, and that continued up all the way into the 20th century, including the fact that Pumu Punku was exploded with dynamite in order to create the nearby railroad bed.
So it's the remnants of something much larger, you think?
Yes, most people believe that possibly 10% of it is left, but a lot of it is still buried under the ground, because there is evidence that a massive cataclysm or mud wave struck the site at some point in the distant past.
There's been this kind of, I wouldn't say debunking, but people trying to work out what happened with these stones at Pumu Punku. They're saying that they could have been rolled on logs because there is a tree level that's below it, and there was hoisting grips on the stones. Are you aware of that? This theory?
Well, the thing is that the site of Pumu Punku is at approximately 13,000 feet above above sea level, and so there are no forests that exist or have existed there in the known past. The only trees that are there now, the few which are existing, are eucalyptus that were brought in from Australia in the 19th century. And the so-called hand grips, that's conjecture because these protrusions, no one really understands what they were for. So the thing is that I have watched some of the debunking videos, but then so have engineers, and they've debunked the debunkers because I don't think much of what the debunking videos contains literally can hold water.
Yeah, I think that they're accusing people of making wild assumptions, but they seem to be making equally quite wild assumptions as well, really, to be fair.
Well, the thing is, the gray andesite, of which, for example, the H blocks are made of, that stone on the hardness scale, excuse me, which is called the Mohs scale, which goes from 1 to 10, 10 being diamond, these are approximately 7 on that scale. And the Tiwanaku people of 2,000 years ago, they had bronze, and bronze is about 3.5 or 3 to 3.5. And so it would be the equivalent of trying to cut a tree down with a plastic knife, because the tool has to be harder than the substance that it's cutting.
Yeah, quite obviously. And so just to give people an idea of how hard this andesite was, where would granite be on this scale?
Granite is about 6, so
Okay.
they are about
quite
the same.
similar. Yeah, and
Yeah.
diamond's the
And
hardest. Yeah.
Yeah, and diamond's the hardest. And the other thing is that the andesite, like, granite is composed of different elements
Yeah.
of varying hardness. And the andesite is as well. And the astonishing thing is that the softer and harder materials were cut evenly by whatever technology this was. You can literally run your hand across some of these flat surfaces, and again, it feels almost as smooth as a glass tabletop.
Yes. Can you tell us what a lot of these H blocks are made of andesite? Is that correct?
Yeah, all of the H blocks are the gray andesite, and those are the two materials which are prevalent. You have the red sandstone and the gray andesite, and it's quite obvious when you look at a photograph.
Yes. So which things are made out of the sandstone there? What people are looking at the
It really,
video.
it really depends on the location. Most of Pumu Punku, which is less than a kilometer away from Tiwanaku, most of that is the gray andesite. But there are base blocks, or almost like foundation blocks, which are made of the red sandstone. Again, there are 3 or 4 of them, and these are massive. One of them has been measured at being 131 tons. Whereas at Tiwanaku, the majority of that is red sandstone, quite precisely cut, with some andesite. And it's possible that the andesite originally came from Pumu Punku and was used in the reconstruction of the Tiwanaku site.
Yes. You, I think, described it as one of the most intriguing ancient sites on the planet, and you've visited many. Why do you say that?
Well, mainly because it's so unique. I mean, there are a lot of sites around Cusco in the Sacred Valley of Peru which are of a certain kind of look. I mean, you have these polygonal walls, and in some cases you have very straight walls made out of cubes. But Pumu Punku, or the approach that was done at Pumu Punku to do the shaping of the stone, is completely unique. There's nothing like it in South America or the Americas, or in fact the planet, as far as I can tell, which are the same technique. And that's what makes it quite strange, because normally in a certain area you'll see related ways of approach of construction or engineering. But in the case of Pumu Punku, it's literally like someone appeared, constructed that, and then never built anything anywhere else.
Yes, even from my point of view, just watching videos and looking at different sites, that one is particularly unique. just to get back to this point that some people were making, that they said it shared common icons with other sites. Is that true?
Well, the only similarities I can see is you have this idea of the false door, which is like a depression in the stone, of like a doorway where there is no actual door. And you see things like that in Egypt as well, but the proportions are different. In the Pumu Punku area, they're more trapezoidal, whereas in Egypt, they seem to be more rectangular. And that's the only similarity. People like to try to draw some kind of comparison, or think that the same people were constructing the ancient sites, pre-pharaonic sites in Egypt, and that they were also doing it as well in South America. But I think they were different people living more or less at the same time, but employing very different types of technology.
I think this is the thing. There's a lot of generalization goes on, isn't there? So people are drawing comparisons without looking at the detail. Would you say that was correct?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, like I do believe there could have been a global civilization or global system of civilizations, prior to what we call history, possibly 12,000 plus years ago. But it wasn't necessarily the same people, because again, their approach to building was different, and not solely based on the material and terrain available. In both Peru and Bolivia, and also in Egypt, there was this love of utilizing very hard stone, which was very high in quartz content. And so that is another similarity.
Yeah, that's very important, and something we'll bring up in the future, because that is common with a lot of these ancient sites. Well, thanks for that, Brian. So the cosmogenic dating of the megaliths of Pumu Punku. Have you got a site for that? Because I believe you're trying to raise some funds to fund this research.
Yes, actually, if people go to the homepage of my website, which is hiddenincatours.com, it's right on the top of the page there, and I believe we have about 40 days left of this fundraiser. It's going quite well, but the thing is, the more money we can get, the more samples can be tested. No one is making any money off of this. All of the money that is raised goes directly to the testing of the stone itself, and this has never been done, as far as I know, in the Americas. And if we get good results from this test, then we'll be able to hopefully obtain samples from different ancient sites around the world and apply the same technique in order to get a better sense of dating than the speculation that's been used previously.
Well, in my opinion, that's one of the most important things that needs to be done to sort out a lot of these anomalies, and really try and get to the heart of what these ancient civilizations were all about and when they were, because the timeline seems to be the problem, doesn't it?
Definitely. The thing is that the conventional age of, for example, the Great Pyramid is that it was constructed more or less at about 2500 BC. However, other theories, put the age back at 10,000 plus years. But the only way to actually know would be to be able to test the stone. And what cosmogenic testing does, is that it tells us how long the stone has been exposed to the air. So hopefully from the point that it was quarried until now, because it's the amount of cosmic radiation that has struck the surface of the stone, and it's almost like the opposite of carbon-14. Carbon-14 is where you have the degradation of carbon-14 in a material, but that's only good for organic materials. What this is this is the buildup of what is called beryllium-10, and that is the byproduct of this cosmic ray contact with the surface of the stone.
We wish you the best of luck with that, Brian, and I know you're not asking for a great deal of money. It's a very small amount of money, and we hope people will donate, and we look forward to the results. We'll speak to you
very much.
Yes.
Oh, my pleasure, Mark.